Good evening and welcome to South Sudan in Focus on the Voice of America. I'm John Tanza in Washington. Here are some of the stories we are covering today, Monday, December 7th, 2015. SPLM-IO blames IGAD for the slow progress in the implementation of the peace deal.
It is not us as we, it is actually the IGAD countries and the IGAD Plus. They are the ones doing the arrangement. For us, we have been ready 2 weeks ago, and that's why we have gotten a written confirmation from the IGAD countries.
And a lawmaker from Eastern Equatorial State says there is serious insecurity in the state.
Even though you talk, they say everything is normal. Because now if you even ask the governor, you say everything is normal, everything is under control. Meanwhile, the use of that town, of that Payam is in the bush. So nobody's really telling the truth. It's nobody even interested to talk to the youth.
We'll have these stories and more coming up on South Sudan in Focus. A member of parliament from Ikotos County says many youth are still hiding in the bush following last month's violence between youth and SPLA soldiers, which left 2 people dead in Eastern Equatorial State. Ikotos County Member of Parliament Grace Abalang says 10 youth are still under what she says is a military detention for nearly a month. Governor Luis Lubong denies violence took place in days and there is no one hiding in the bush.
From Torit, the military was sent a reinforcement. So when the reinforcement reached Ikotos on Sunday, on Monday, they started to do arbitrary arrests. Okay? So youths who were in the headquarters were arrested. There are even now 10 in Torit. Most of them, 6 are organized forces. The other 4 are youths in Ikotos County. They are in Torit in the military custody since that day. And those military went with a list. So they wanted to arrest everybody who is in that list. So our youth who are in the town, so like that, they ran into the bush. So up to this moment, I'm talking to you, all our youth are in the bushes. They did not come back home, which is really very worrying. Because, if somebody is staying in the bush since on the 12th, and today is on the 7th, it means 5 days to be 1 month in the bush, leaving your family and suffering with rains, with mosquito, something will come into your mind. So this is why we are telling our state government and our county government they need to reconcile with those youths. They need to talk to those youths. Those youths should come back home. Because those youths did not even do anything. Really, those who are afraid.
Now, the youths are in the bush because they are fearing not to be arrested. Now, what is the state government doing?
You know our system in South Sudan sometimes is very difficult. Because we have the state government, we have the county government, and then we have the MPs. Even though you talk, they say everything is normal. Because now if you even ask the governor, he say everything is normal, everything is under control. Meanwhile, the use of that town, of that Payam is in the bush. So nobody's really telling the truth. It's nobody even interested to talk to the youth. But we are trying our level best MPs to talk to them, let them stay calm, the issue will be solved. That's why they are there since the 12th to today, they did not even do anything, suffering.
Okay, what about the 10 youth arrested now in the military barracks?
They are in the military barracks in Torit. They are brought from Ikotos in Torit. They are not even charged, they are not even investigated. Some members of the community, they went to the military who is keeping them. Those ones are saying, those people are brought by those people who went there. We even don't know why they are brought here. We even don't know their issue, and we cannot release them. Because those ones in Torit who are taking care of them are really very innocent. So we are asking those people who went to Ikotos and brought those youths, if those youths are really having nothing, let them be released. Why keep them here? You are not investigating, you are not even handing them to police. If they have done wrong, they have to be taken to the police, investigate, and if they are guilty, then they have to be put in jail. But if they are not, they have to be released because you cannot keep somebody for 1 month without investigation. That's unfair. And even according to our constitution, somebody has to be in custody just for 24 hours. If there's no charges, that person will have to be released. Now they are even violating our own constitution.
Now let's talk about the issue on Thursday, where they say there are actually some group of people entered a barracks and occupied also, a police post in Torit in places called Idolu. Do you know something about this situation?
I come from Ikotos. Idolu is on our way to Ikotos. And when that thing happened last Thursday, I don't know, Thursday or Friday, I was in Juba. I also had like any other person said. But I know there's a small structure in Idolu. It's not even a permanent structure. Just a temporary. It was put there because there was insecurity in Idolu. I don't think, maybe since 2011. The issue of Idolu is not really right now. this thing has been happening. People have been attacking people on the road. That's why that structure is put. I don't know, really, those police are still there up to this moment. So I'm even hearing from people. Maybe you need to talk from MP from Torit. You will know really, are there people, are there a group of armed people, or this is just the usual robbery happening in Idol? Because it has been happening since 2011 or even maybe at 8 there.
That's Grace Abalang, Member of Parliament for Ikotos County. She was speaking with my colleague, VOA fellow Tito Justin, earlier today. Rebels loyal to former Vice President Riek Machar says an advance team of 262 rebels are expected to land in Juba on Friday. Ezekiel Lol Gathquot says he got delayed in buying plane tickets and booking accommodations for his group. He says the second and the third batch of the rebels are expected to arrive in Juba towards the end of December.
We are having close to 600 people. They will be going to Juba, and they will be led by our chief negotiator, General Taban Dengai. The first team will start leaving from Gambela, Ethiopia. They are all in Pagak, South Sudan now. They will be leaving from Pagak, South Sudan to Gambela, Ethiopia, and they will take off from Gambela, Ethiopia to Juba. The first team will take off on December 11th, 2015. At 7 a.m. And this team also will be led by General Taban Dengai. The others will also join in 2 days' time.
Ezekiel, what will be the job? What's the purpose of this delegation that's going to Juba? What are they expected to be doing there?
Well, first, we have people who will be involved and engaging the government in the implementation of the agreement, setting up forces, the cantonment sites of all the forces. The Transitional Government of National Unity will also be established, the selection of the ministers, also the governors, and the reconstitution of all the institutions of the government in South Sudan. The general implementation of the agreement is what they are going for. That's why the team is being led by our chief negotiator. While they are in Juba, they will be engaging former president of Botswana, who is the head of the Joint Monitoring and Evaluation Commission, His Excellency Festus Mohai, and they will also be discussing with the government, engaging the President of the Republic, Salva Kiir Mayardit, and many others.
The last time we talked with you, we were given a time that the delegation was to go to Juba. That never materialized. Later, we were told it was due to logistical reasons. Have you taken care of those logistical reasons, and what are they?
Well, definitely, it is not us as we. It is actually the IGAD countries and the IGAD Plus. They are the ones doing the arrangement. For us, we have been ready 2 weeks ago, and that's why we have gotten a written confirmation from the IGAD countries and the IGAD Plus, the Troika, USA included, UK included, Norway is included, and also China. They are actually the one funding the implementation of the agreement, including paying for the advance team to Juba, their accommodation, also their accommodation and transportation to all the 10 states. So now they have confirmed in writing that flights are booked for the 11th of December, and the first team, the 262, will be taking off to Juba on the 11th December. It is confirmed and in writing.
So you have informed the government in Juba of your delegation's arrival?
Yes, they are ready. They are also in communication with us in writing. It is not verbal. They have written to us since November 26th. They were ready to receive us if the IGAD provided the logistics.
That's Ambassador Ezekiel Gathquot, who is a senior member of the SPLM in opposition. He was speaking to VOA's James Batty from the rebel headquarters in Pagak, Upper Nile State. Now we move to Kenya, where a Kenyan rights group says police and security forces have been responsible for nearly 300 gun-related killings in the past 2 years, including cases of summary execution and stray bullets striking bystanders. Muhammad Yusuf reports for VOA from Nairobi.
28-year-old Jeremy Mutiso was sitting near his home in Mathare chatting with friends one Sunday evening in June 2011. When a demonstration started, police arrived to break it up.
From where I was watching, I had 4 bullets, gunshots. Then the 4th one was so loud. Then I kind of got tensed, and when I was trying to run into our house, my hand couldn't move because I had pocketed my hands at the back. So when I tried to pull them up, only the upper part could move.
Those running behind him told him that he was short and bleeding. It took hours to get to the hospital, where he spent 2 weeks. From his hospital bed, Mutiso asked if his father followed up the case, and he says he was shocked by the answer.
We can't do that. He's afraid we will not be able to win the case. Reason being, he's afraid the cops might fight back in terms of harassing us.
Mutiso moved to a safer neighborhood. Kenya's Independent Medical Legal Unit, IMLU, says security forces were behind at least 2/3 of gun-related deaths in Kenya between 2009 and 2013, and the trend has continued. The IMLU, which specializes in cases of torture and abuse by the state, says it recorded 199 killings by police in 2014 and dozens more injuries. The IMLU says it had recorded 97 killings this year as of October. The advocacy group says the vast majority of victims since 2009 were shot in the back or in the head, something the IMLU says points to execution-style killings or situation in which security forces' lives were not under direct threat when they fired. Peter Kiama, the head of IMLU, says many cases go unreported, and for the few victims who speak out, justice is rare.
In 99% of the cases that we have handled in the last 5 years, of people who have died from police bullets, whether they are suspects or victims of police stray bullets, the police have denied being involved, and therefore it has taken the family to follow up with the government. In the majority of the cases, the families just resign to fate.
Police spokesman Charles Owino says while people may get shot during operations, the number is exaggerated and police are not always to blame.
We must justify why we have shot at the criminal. But the criminal is not accountable to any action that they take. So for that reason, we have incidences where people have lost their lives through stray bullets. But it is not that large number, like 200 annually, as put by IMLU.
A government agency created in 2012, the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, has also raised concern about police shootings. In one recently concluded investigation, the agency recommended murder charges against a police constable in the shooting deaths of 2 university students in November 2014. Mohammed Yusuf for VOA News, Nairobi.
You're listening to South Sudan in Focus from the Voice of America. Coming up, what is happening in Central African Republic? That story is coming up next.
What do you think? People speak out on important questions. The question today:
who are the important people in your life and why?
My children, my parents, my husband. My husband came at the 3rd position, you see. So is the 3rd person to arrive because I think that is not a really member of my family, like my parents or my children or my brothers.
It's my parents, definitely, because they've enabled me to pursue my studies properly, and that they provide me with school fees, their welfare, whatsoever, though in difficulties because they're small earners, but I do appreciate it.
What do you think? A daily discussion of important questions from VOA.
You're listening to South Sudan in Focus. Last year, thousands of Muslims were evacuated from the besieged PK-12 neighborhood in the Central African Republic capital Bangui. More than 18 months later, their houses have been taken over by Christians, some of whom have no intention of giving them up. Chris Stein reports from Bangui.
Minutes after thousands of Muslims were evacuated in a convoy of trucks, mobs stormed PK-12. They ripped roofs and doors off homes and businesses. Others dropped to their knees and shouted Allahu Akbar to mock the Muslims that had once called PK-12 home. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon has called the 2-year-old sectarian conflict in CAR ethno-religious cleansing. PK-12 is a stark example of what that means. It became one of the last Muslim safe havens in Bangui after the conflict started in 2013. After Muslims were evacuated, the local mosque was destroyed, and Christians like Gervais Takamba moved into the vacant houses. He says the house he lives in now is not for Muslims. It's for Christian Central Africans like him. Even if the Muslims were to come back, he could not accept having one living in that house again. Consulting researcher for Amnesty International, Jonathan Pedneau, says the question of property rights will have to be answered if Muslims are to return to their old neighborhoods.
That certainly is a major obstacle to their return, because once they are enabled to come back, what you'll have is obviously a lot of land conflicts, which will certainly just bring back more fuel to the fire that is still ongoing at the moment.
When the fighting broke out in December 2013, Mohamed Surabjo fled from PK-12 to another Muslim neighborhood called PK-5. It's now the last Muslim neighborhood in the capital, but he has not forgotten about his old home. When it becomes safe to go back, Surabjo says he'll go back to PK-12. He has the legal documents, and he'll use them to get his property back. CAR is far from a lasting peace. Killings occur sporadically in the capital. Last week, 8 people were killed in a refugee camp south of the second city, Bambari. Chris Stein for VOA News, Bangui.
From Bangui, we now go back to Juba, where South Sudanese musicians have promised to bring peace to the country. For more, we go to our Washington reporter, Ian Bure.
South Sudanese artists are using music to promote peace across the country. More than a dozen artists are traveling to all 10 states to stage music shows that they hope will help restore peace and unity. South Sudanese musician Captain Abiati performed at South Sudan's We Need Peace at Freedom Hall in Juba last evening, where hundreds of people, mostly youth, turned up to hear the free music. Afrobeat artist Betty Tony believes they can use music to help shape South Sudan's future. She says, quote, "I'm very excited because it makes me feel I have taken part in peace building, like South Africa, which has always been our example. The musicians, they sing about their country, how they want it to be free, and a lot of things which contributed to their freedom," end quote. John Kundase, an Afrobeat artist who is one of the Campaign for Peace organizers, agrees. He says, quote, "We in South Sudan, mostly the high numbered, are not educated. They just work on what they are hearing. This is why we are relying on music, and not only to be in songs. We will go and cooperate with the youth in the area and also the intellectuals in the city," end quote. The award-winning artist says he and other musicians will organize concerts in villages and payams, bringing the message of love to people at the grassroots level. Kundase says music is a tool for peace, unity, and development. He believes songs can be used for reconciling some of South Sudan's different ethnic groups. That event was sponsored by United Nations Education, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, or UNESCO, as part of their global campaign, Unite for Heritage. The campaign calls on everyone to take a stand against extremism and radicalization by celebrating cultural traditions that make the world a tolerant and vibrant place. UNESCO's head in South Sudan, Saleh Khaled, told the crowd, which gathered at Freedom Hall yesterday, that over the years, music has always been a unifying tool for the South Sudanese communities. She says, quote, "We really believe that music is a powerful tool for peace. The musicians have a very important role to bring the people together. It is a universal language. Build on your diversity. Don't make your differences. Bring hate among each other. Unite to protect your own heritage," end quote. 23-year-old fan Aluel Angok says he was impressed by last night's performance. Angok says he hopes music can in fact restore peace in his war-torn country. He says, quote, "At least they are sending us the message in the songs. So I like it and I am happy. You see, most of the people inside here, they are not from one tribe. They came from different parts of the states and everything. And this is just a start. I believe that next year is going to be better," end quote. Magume Davis prepared that report from Juba. For VOA News, I'm Ayan Bior in Washington.
You're listening to South Sudan in Focus from the Voice of America. Here are a recap of today's top stories with South Sudan in Focus editor Carol Van Dam.
Thanks, John. South Sudan rebels loyal to former Vice President Riek Machar say Phase 1 of their advance team of more than 200 people will leave Gambela, Ethiopia on December 11th for Juba on December 11th and 12th. Phase 2, involving more than 300 other representatives, will arrive in Juba between December 18th and the 22nd. Ezekiel Lol-Gatkuth, Secretary of Foreign Affairs of SPLA-IO, says the leader of the team is Chief Rebel Negotiator General Taban Deng Gai. The rebel team is arriving later than previously planned. The government has said that it welcomes their arrival back to South Sudan. A member of parliament from Ikotos says many youth are still hiding in the bush following last month's violence between youth and SPLA soldiers, which left at least 2 people dead in eastern Equatoria State. Ikotos County Member of Parliament Grace Abalang says 10 youth are still under what she says is a military detention for nearly a month. Governor Louis Lebong denies the violence took place and says there is no one hiding in the bush. He says he is organizing rallies in some parts of the state to reconcile the youth and the SPLA. And in France, talks on a universal climate pact shifted to a higher gear today, with UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon urging governments to set off an energy revolution to rein in heat-trapping carbon emissions and prevent disastrous global warming. Foreign and environment ministers joined the talks outside Paris after lower-level negotiators, who met last week, delivered a draft agreement with all crunch issues left unresolved. Warning that the clock is ticking towards climate catastrophe, Ban told ministers the world expects more from them than half measures. Ban said it is calling for a transformative agreement. Your work here, he says, this week can help eradicate poverty, spark a clean energy revolution, and provide jobs, opportunities, and hope for tomorrow. The Paris conference is the 21st time world governments are meeting to seek a joint solution to climate change. The talks are focused on reducing emissions of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases, primarily by shifting from oil, coal, and gas to cleaner sources of energy. The envisioned Paris Agreement is supposed to be the first deal to ask all countries to rein in their emissions. Earlier pacts only required wealthy nations to do that. And finally, South Sudanese artists are using music to promote peace across the country. More than a dozen artists are traveling to all 10 states to stage music shows that they hope will restore peace and unity. South Sudan musician Captain Abiati sang his song, South Sudan, We Need Peace, at Freedom Hall in Juba last evening, where hundreds of people, mostly youth, turned up for the event. And that's a look at some of today's top stories. I'm Carol Van Dam.
Thanks, Carol. And that's the end of our show for this Monday. We now leave you with the song New Sudan by Kenyan musician Musa Juma.
Viva New Sudan. Milambo Abanai personalities, Southern region. Karangotio matek sana kapika. Simeo kedo malich sana kapika. Elijo kedo matek sana kapika. Acholi koda sande kinupi. Shiluku koda madigiti kaluku. Kanyanyalita Joseph Lako, Generali Joseph Lako, Oscar. Toke de Piri Sudani Mamilambo, Equatorial personalities, Southern region. Toke de Piri Sudani Mamilambo, personalities, Southern region. Daktari Justin Tiomatek sana, Hasani kama Tiomatek sana, Wakili Peter Tiomatek sana, Lukutu, Agnes tiyo matek sana. Albino, Olivia tiyo matek sana. Anyango kedo mali sana Afrika. Anyanyalita Joseph Lako. Generali Joseph Lako. Sudan Mamila Moge Bargasel personalities Southern region KDP Sudan Mamila Moge Bargasel personalities Southern region Eliaba Osuruti Amatek Sana William Nyoti Amatek Sana Mokweye Johnny Amatek Sana Salvae Kirti Amatek Sana Macharoti Amatek Sana Africa Anyanyalita Joseph Lako Generali Joseph Lako Sab Sudani Mamela Moge Abanai personalities Southern region Jokedepi Sudani Mamela Moge Abanai personalities Southern region Africa Igadi Matek Sana Naivasha, Akot Matek Sana. Djibouti, Kenya Matek Sana. Uingereza, Bush Matek Sana. Jakara Chonyo Buya kitu cha Kenya. Malala Likikoko Pwani Mombasa. Raila Odinga. Sungeriko kutoka Kenya Kisumu Anyanyalita Joseph Lako Generali Joseph Lako Jokedepi Sudani Mamela Moge Equatorial personalities Southern region Sudani Mamila Moge Equatorial personalities Southern region
We've been listening to Musa Juma with that song, New Sudan. I'm John Tanza in Washington. Thanks for listening. Join us again tomorrow for another edition of South Sudan in Focus from the Voice of America.